Hey guys, my name is Jeremy Wittersheim. I didn't script out this part, and I don't know how to. I tried to film it a couple of times last night. I couldn't get a take where I wasn't just breaking down, because last night Roman opened Raw by relinquishing the Universal Championship because he has been battling leukemia for the last 11 years and it's back. And there's nothing in my usual sort of repertoire that I can say about that. It's been no secret. I like Roman as a character, as a wrestler. But this hit me really hard, and it hit a lot of us really hard. And I've been really happy to see the sentiment coming out. It's thank you, Roman, and buck cancer. But I think more importantly than thank you, Roman, thank you, Joe. Because Joe is the man who put himself through everything, who brought so much to this industry, who innovated so much in the face of, if we're being honest, a lot of adversity from fans and from other people in the industry. And all we can really say at this point is we miss you, Roman, and we want to see you come back soon. Bigger and better than ever. Because while you may have given up your belt last night, you're still a champion. You were a champion then, you're a champion now, you will always be a champion forever. I guess that's all I can really say about it. Now, a good way to move on from that. But the show rolled on with Finn Balor taking on Bobby Lashley with Lio Rush at ringside. Now, Bobby and Lio have only been heels for a couple of weeks, so I fully expected they were still building themselves up in a rampage across Raw's underutilized fan favorites. But instead, it seemed that they're being used now to further delay moving Finn to the main card. As after a hard-fought bout, Finn picked up the win with a roll-up. And while I'm no expert in physics, that really didn't seem possible. I mean, I'm glad Finn won the match, but usually he does that after stomping his opponent's ribcage into the mantle of the earth. Bobby is a 280-pound former MMA fighter, and if the weight of Finn Balor could immobilize him, I have some serious questions about his Bellator run. Nevertheless, lesson one, never let the laws of physics stand between you and victory. Following this, Sasha Banks with Bayley and Natty at her side took on Ruby Riott with the squad fam in tow. The match was enjoyable. Banks was apparently returning from injury that had kept her out of active competition for the last month or so, and she looked pretty solid throughout. Interference played heavily in this match from the fine people on both sides, but in the end, the distractions at ringside played in Ruby's favor when she was able to catch Banks with a Riott kick. This was a go-home moment for the six-woman tag at Evolution that I'm not exactly down to clown with, but it's better than watching them get thrown to the Battle Royale as fodder, so I guess this is what we got to work with. After this, we had another DX promo where Trips and Michael talked up NXT and talked down the Brothers of Destruction, who responded with their own pre-recorded segment. But before all that, HBK brought up the rather salient point that it was hard to imagine current mayor of Knoxville County, Tennessee, walking out of a boardroom, putting on a mask, squeezing into a singlet, and heading down to a boiler room with fellow AARP member Mark Calloway and a GoPro, and recording some jabs at his opponents for a non-existent show. While I tend to agree on that point, Sean, I'd like to point out that it's only slightly more ridiculous than what you and your best friend are doing on Raw from week to week. Pretending you're 24 years old and finger-gunning the audience to the tune of a royalty-free Rage Against the Machine parody and a cowboy hat that you're using to hide the tan line around your scalp. Lesson 2, kids. Time marches on with or without you. You can march with it or desperately swim against the current, chopping your crotch deep into your golden years. Paul Heyman came to the ring next to talk up Brock Lesnar. He was interrupted by Braun Strowman, who pulled a whiplashing face turn and was summarily Claymore kicked from behind by Drew McIntyre. I only bring this segment up because it sets up a moment down the line in the show. Other than that, we're not talking about it. After that, we had a follow-up to last week's Apollo vs. Elias segment with a match between the two. Apollo looked strong throughout the match, but it was a bit of a lackluster finish when Elias pinned him clean. This led into Elias at the top of the ramp, attempting to finish the song that Cruz interrupted at the top of the segment, but Baron Corbin was having none of it and told Elias that the show had a schedule to keep, and that he wouldn't be able to finish the song. After some back and forth, Elias agreed, only to come back out and treat Corbin's back like Kurt Cobain treated every bass basement stage in the early 90s. Lesson 3, Baron. You can't stop the music, man. Next, we had a contract signing between Nikki Bella and Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship match at Evolution. Nikki brought Brie to the ring with her, and even with 2-to-1 odds, steered clear of Ronda's wrath for most of the segment. While facing off across the table, Nikki slapped Ronda after Rousey had given her word that she'd not attack her during the signing. True to her creed, she signed the contract without incident and promised Bella that she'd end her come Sunday. We had a fatal four-way after that between Ember Moon, Tamina, Nia Jax, and Dana Brooke. After last week's shenanigans, the team separated and we got the free-for-all that we all wanted. For about 90 seconds, after which Ember clocked Tamina with an eclipse to win the match. Moving on, we had a backstage segment next that began as an interview with Tori Wilson and Lita, but was interrupted by Alicia Fox, who was only providing a distraction for Alexa and Mickey to jump the faces. It briefly looked as if the heels had gone over when Lita and Tori jumped back into the fray and kicked some more ass to end it. Finally, we had Rollins and Ambrose taking on McIntyre and Ziggler for the Raw Tag Team Championships and a nice barn burner to close the show. This really felt like a fresh match in the face of the developments in the feud in the last 2 weeks, and it was another great showing out of all participants. Deep into the match, McIntyre looked like he had won over Seth when Braun came out to distract the towering bagpipe man and allow Seth to roll him up. But it wasn't over yet. Drew kicked out, and Braun continued to stroll to the ring, attacking McIntyre while the ref was still out from an earlier bump. Braun chased him out into the crowd, and the two brawled until what we can only assume to be this day is they weren't seen again on the show. Sensing his reign coming to an end, Dolph took this as a sign that his work here was done, but Seth dragged him back into the ring and stopped him, covering Ziggler while Dean dragged the ref back into the ring to count to 3. Dean and Seth are your new tag team champions leading into the 4th lesson of the evening. When you keep burning bridges, don't be surprised when you hit a wall. But the show's not over yet, folks. While celebrating in the ring, Dean turned to Seth and hit him with a dirty deeds. His facial expressions afterwards were a sight to behold, really selling the internal conflict of the moment to the television audience. Even asking himself what he'd just done and why now. Seth was ready to forgive the slight almost instantly, but Dean wasn't finished. He brutally beat Seth inside and outside of the ring, throwing the belts at him and declaring this is all you really cared about. In a final act of savagery, Dean exposed the concrete at ringside and performed another dirty deeds directly on it. Our final lesson tonight: red flags are always harder to see through rose-colored glasses. Hey, just like these. I wonder what that says about me. That's our lot for Monday night, students. Tomorrow we'll be discussing SmackDown, and Friday we'll be going through the predictions for Evolution with a guest I can't wait to introduce to you. Until then, my name is Jeremy Goddamn Masters. This has been the Masterclass. Get well soon, Roman. It's kind of unfortunate. I planned to do like a 10,000 cell eye reveal for you guys. No, it wasn't going to be great or anything, but it's probably not what was impeding my momentum.